Good evening, guys. Here's F for you. Now, we are discussing a full narrative on the dying, undying. Okay, so we will dig into that for F. So here we go. The body's last language, a full essay on dying. Dying is often imagined as a single moment, a last breath, a final heartbeat, a sudden exhalation, extinguishing. But the truth is quieter and more intricate. Dying is not an event, it is a process, a slow unwinding of the body's lifelong commitments to staying alive. It is a choreography of physiology and sensation, a gradual turning inward, a release that unfolds in layers. If we understood this better, we might fear death less and accompany the dying with more tenderness and clarity. The first softening. Dying begins long before the final breath. In the last days or weeks, the body starts to recognize its priorities. Energy that once fueled appetites, conversation, and movement is redirected toward the essential work of shutting down. People sleep more, they eat less, they speak in shorter sentences or not at all. Families often interpret this as withdrawal, but it is not withdrawal. It's a it is conversation. The person is not choosing to disengage. Their body is simply turning inward like a tide pulling back from the shore. The softening is often peaceful. The dying person drifts between wakefulness and a dreamlike state. They may still hear you hear and feel, but their attention is no longer anchored in the external world. They are beginning the quiet descent. The senses loosen their hold. Vision usually the first sense to change. The edges of the room blur. Light becomes too bright or too dim. People may share past loved ones, not because they don't see them, but because the brain is slowly releasing its grip on visual processing. The world becomes softer, less demanding. Hearing often persists, even when the person appears unresponsive. Low familiar voices can still reach them. Families whisper, thinking the dying person cannot hear, but the opposite is very often true. The world becomes quieter, more intimate. Touch. Circulation slows. Hands and feet cool. Skin molten. Skin molts. Touch becomes lighter, more distant. Yet a hand held at the end can still feel grounding, even if the person cannot respond. Touch becomes the last bridge between worlds. Taste and smell. Food stops speaking to the senses. The desire to eat disappears because the body no longer needs fuel for a journey. It is no longer taking. Smell fades almost without announcement. Internal sensations. As external senses fade, internal ones grow louder. Breath, heartbeat, pressure, dryness. People describe floating, heaviness, or waves moving through them. These sensations are not painful. They are simply the body's final conversations with itself. If you want to explore any of these sensory shifts more deeply, you can choose vision, changes, hearing changes, touch changes, internal sensations. The mind's drift. There is a phrase many clinicians call the two worlds. The person moves between wakefulness and a dreamlike state. They may speak to people who have died, reach toward something unseen, or describe landscapes water, or light. This is not hallucination. It is the brain's transitioning, loosening its tether to the physical world. Speech fades, eyes close more often. The person may stop responding, but hearing and touch remain. This is the quieting. Eventually comes the final withdrawal. The world becomes dim, soft, and distant. The person is not suffering, they are simply receding. The body's final work, breathing. Breathing becomes irregular, long pauses, shallow breaths, or rapid bursts. This pattern, called Cheyenne strokes, breathing is a sign of the brain stem winding down. It can look dramatic, but it is not uncomfortable for the person experiencing it. Blood flow prioritizes the core, hands and feet cool, skin molts, purple or blue pulse becomes faint. The body is redirecting its remaining energy toward the heart and brain. The body stops processing food and fluids. This is natural and not painful. Artificial hydration at this stage often causes discomfort rather than relief. Muscles relax. The jaw may slacken. Eyes may partially open. These are normal reflexes, not signals of distress. Temperature. The internal thermostat falters. The person may feel cold even when warm to the touch. Kidneys. Urine becomes darker and less frequent as kidney function slows. These changes are not signs of suffering. They are signs of the body's quiet, competent work of letting go. The moment of death. Most people lose consciousness before the final moments. They are not aware of the last breath. The final breaths become softer, slower, further apart. Eventually, there is a pulse that simply never resolves. There is no pain, no struggle, no sudden jolt. It is quiet, a release, not a rapture. After the last breath, the body may still show small improvements, a final exhale, a slight twitch, a change in facial expression. These are reflexes, not signs of suffering. Okay, after death, the body's stiffness, or the body's stillness. Within minutes, heart stops, breathing stops, skin cools, pupils fix. Within hours, skin becomes pale, muscles stiffen, rigor mortis. Body temperature drops. Within a day, rigor mortis peaks. Skin may show marbling. Natural bacterial processes begin. The room often feels different, quieter, heavier, or strangely peaceful. This is not mystical. It is the sudden absence of metabolic activity, breath, and motion. But families often describe it as a presence, not an absence. The meaning of the meaning of the end. Dying is not only a biological event, it is relational, emotional, and deeply human. Even after death, families often feel the person's presence in the room, not as a supernatural event, but because the relationship persists in the mind and body. Death is the end of a body, not the end of a bond. To accompany someone at the end of life is to witness the body's last language, the stiffening or the softening, the loosening, the drifting, the release. It is to understand that dying is not a cliff, but a landscape, one the body crosses with coherence and often grace.